Welcome back to the podcast. We're here today with Breach. We're
Back
talking.
to back days with Stevie Breech. What a time.
Yes. So
That's it.
basically, the other day I thought of an idea. Why don't we talk about? We do a podcast talking about the wrestling in each year of the decade. So we're going to start today with 2010, and then we're going to work our way through every year. Basically, in preparation for this, it wasn't even because like I wanted to prep. I just kind of wanted to like I was curious of what it was like because I remember certain things from 2010, but there's a lot that I just don't. Like I remember like two main things. So I went back on the network
The
and
next angle, dude, is the
I
big deal.
started with the Nexus. Yes, when the Nexus interferes during the John Cena and CM Punk match, and honestly, the fact that so it was a viewer's choice match, and the fact that the viewers, quote unquote, the viewers, picked Punk like to face John Cena, and it started this big thing because it like obviously we know where it went because like Punk obviously at the end of the year became like the leader of the Nexus. So the fact that it started with that, and then going into 2011, obviously, like what happened,
Not
like
awesome.
the Nexus stuff was, I mean, that was the thing. Like people were afraid of the Nexus. You know what I mean?
So let's start back at the beginning of the year.
All right, well, shoot, I thought we were just gonna go from whatever, but all right, let's find out. Is your podcast just an I just am here?
But we're gonna go in order, dude. I don't want to jump around time jumps in the middle of 1 year.
Well, nothing else is important, but by all means, Justin, you can go ahead.
So Breach, Hogan,
Yeah.
TNA, January 4th,
You just going out the nuts.
and then Brett returning to confront Sean, January 4th. What'd you watch first?
I honestly was at work. I came home. I turned on Impact first because I felt like Raw was basically gonna be. You want to know what else? You know what else? Okay, everybody jokes about these things. John Cena, like WWE, like was basically like we don't care about this. John Cena went to a football game in Arizona to flip a
Right.
coin. They didn't even have Cena on the show. And I don't even, it wasn't to promote a movie. It wasn't for anything other than him just flipping a coin. And
And if
I don't know if that had
you
anything
watch
to do with
that, you can watch
Make-A-Wish
that
or
on
anything like
John
that.
Cena Experience.
But they were like, they just put all of their eggs into the Bret Hart thing and were like, fuck it. If it don't work, it don't work. I honestly kind of was hoping they thought that the TNA thing was going to be bigger. So I came home and I watched Impact and I was treated to a main event of Hulk Hogan and Abyss versus AJ Styles and Ric Flair.
Oh, you
And
put me
I
to
got
sleep.
exactly what I asked for.
I don't think that was I think the main event was. I thought it was AJ versus Kurt Angle.
I'm pretty sure that Hogan wrestled on the first show.
No, I think they built it up. I think Hogan wrestled after the fact.
Oh, well, geez. They didn't plan that out
But yeah,
well.
Hogan did wrestle like later on. Yeah, AJ Styles defeated Kurt Angle to retain the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. Jeff Hardy made his debut. The NWO reunion. Remember 2010 when the NWO reunion happened and we thought they were old? Like, geez,
The band.
Here's the
10
thing
years
about
later, it's still running.
that. Like the Monday Night Wars, I guess you can say. Um, like, so at that time, um, in like my friend group, like everybody was a wrestling fan, and so everybody on like pretty much everybody was so like, oh, you got to watch TNA. They were telling me that you have to watch TNA. TNA is going to outlive WWE. It's the program to watch right now. Like Tommy's gonna yell at me for like these words that I'm saying right now because he's probably gonna be like, no, you're wrong. I never said any of that. But everybody was telling me to watch TNA. I tried to watch TNA. I couldn't watch TNA. I and I was very very pro WWE at that time, and so trying to watch TNA was just like crazy. And then you see them change to the four-sided ring, and that was a big thing. And I
Oh
just
man, when
couldn't
they
get
changed to
into
the
TNA.
four-sided ring, I was so mad. They opened that pay-per-view, whatever they had, and was like, "We're doing a four-sided ring." I'm like, "This is not what I watch you for. I want the six sides."
Yeah, and they changed to the blue. Remember?
I might have been wrong about the Hogan thing. But the one thing I remember that I know was on that first show was they brought back that like cage that was like a circle. I forget.
Yeah.
It was like I think
like-
they called it like the something dome or something like that.
Yeah.
And was it? It was Homicide. Homicide was supposed to climb out of the cage, and he couldn't get out. He was like stuck at the top, and he couldn't swing himself through. And then Jeff Hardy came out, and you thought he was gonna do a run-in, but he just climbed up on top of the cage and
he
sat
there. And they went to commercial break. It's like Jeff Hardy's in TNA. What's gonna happen on this epic night? Also, TNA did a 3-hour show, and this was back when Raw was only 2 hours, 9 to 11.
Dang, see, I don't remember that either.
Yeah. So what a time.
Yeah, well, we see how that went. You know, we see how that went for him, because that, like, I mean, I really had to, like, it took me until now to think about that.
Also, I remember in January, Sheamus beat John Cena in December, so Sheamus is a champion, which is wild. He went from ECW to like shot to the moon with WWE champion.
Oh.
I remember I saw Sheamus in a dark match at the Raw that I went to a couple months prior to that time.
It's really funny. So I remember Batista coming in that chamber where Cena won the title. Batista came and he's like, Vince is like, oh yeah, Batista's gonna face you now, and then he just wins the title. The heel Batista. What a reign Batista had. Like what a good gimmick he had. They just had to ruin it.
I don't remember any Batista except for him quitting later in the year.
Remember the sunglasses? Batista had come on Raw. This was when the spotlight happened.
Where's my spotlight?
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about 2010 WWE for me. Before the Nexus, the only thing I cared about was on SmackDown with Punk and the Straight Edge Society. Like that was my storyline that year. That was all that I cared about in the WWE until the Nexus came.
In the air, and you put your hand over your heart.
Let me tell you, later that year at Night of Champions 2010, the first pay-per-view that I ever went to, it was Big Show versus CM Punk. Punk still had the mask, and I'm not even joking, me and maybe 10 other people scattered through the arena were the only ones standing up during Punk's entrance. Like when he did his whole, raise your hand or whatever, I was raising my hand. I was proud. I was like, this is my guy, Punk. He's from Chicago. We're in Chicago. And the fact that, like, I always say that the fact that it went from, a handful of people standing up for this guy, and then, like, the next pay-per-view that they're in Chicago, obviously everybody knows what happened. Yeah, so it's like, it's just crazy. And I was such a huge fan of the Straight Edge Society, dude. It was ridiculous. Like, I was all in on this guy, pun intended. Like, I mean, that was really what made me even more of a Punk fan, because I liked him from the moment that, I found out he was from Chicago in 2007. But like that Straight Edge Society thing, I mean, like the fact that he like wrote all that by himself, and like he tells the story that he went home and just wrote like weeks and weeks and weeks of TV for this thing. He brought in Luke Gallows, who obviously was Festus, and they said that he saved him. And he would bring out people like, here's the process that I went through in my head, where I was like seeing these people on TV get picked from the crowd to get their head shaved. I would think about, like, if I got picked from the crowd and I was at a show, would I let them cut my hair? And you know what's crazy? Come on.
Oh, I love it.
You want to go one further? That year, I got buzz cut all the time.
Of course you did. Summertime, you went to the barber or the hair salon. You're like, well, give me a little buzz ski on my head because I want to be like Punksky.
Yeah,
if you could grow a beard, you would have grown a big ass beard too, wouldn't you?
Like that year is what made me the Punk fan I am today. Like that was like, I mean, it was just so great. Like there were so many great things, and like that was my storyline. Oh, and Joey Mercury. I forgot about Joey Mercury. Like he was a part of it all.
So Breech. Yeah. I know. I remember your fandom's dying in 2010. And you get to go to WrestleMania.
Oh, that came out of the middle of nowhere when I won that contest.
So like before that, were you just watching for the sake of watching? What were you doing?
I was pretty much just watching Raw. I didn't watch SmackDown at all, but that was just because I had watched it every Monday for ever that I thought that, that's just what you did. But I mean, I can't, I mean, I would watch the show, kind of just make fun of it. I wouldn't really like retain anything out of it or really like anything out of it.
So you go to WrestleMania, you get baptized, and then what happens after that? Like, you're watching everything, Raw, SmackDown, everything?
Well, then right after that is when basically YouTube took off. So I pretty much kind of had to. I don't think I still cared about SmackDown. I mean, I'll face the facts. I mean, like, even when Swagger was the champion, well, I guess that was
I remember that.
When Swagger was the champion, like 26, that was possibly the time that it was must watch. And even besides for that, I can't think of a time where I was going out of my way to watch what was going down with SmackDown.
So you don't remember any of the Punk stuff from SmackDown, just Swagger?
I watched highlights, but not like live week to week to week kind
That's
of stuff.
It was around that time that I found out that what's it called? That SmackDown was taped. Like when I was able to watch clips on YouTube and stuff. Where like you see like Jack Swagger cashing in. Like I watched it on YouTube because I was like, wait a minute, like people are uploading these clips and stuff. How is this possible?
Miguel ruined that for everybody.
Why?
Posted that video. Posted the video with the spoiler in it, and just basically was like, "Hey, Jack Swagger beat Chris Jericho. He's the new champion." I think he said, "Suck my dick."
Breach was like, "Ah, come on, dude."
Dude, what made you like Swagger so much?
So Shawn Michaels retired this year. Breach, you saw it. Mike, you're the HBK fan.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hold on.
I thought he was coming back.
I wanna
know why Breach likes Swagger so much.
I just liked his look, and I liked the wrestling background, and everybody was like, "Oh, he's like a Kurt Angle wannabe." But I thought that having a physical wrestler, having a wrestler that is has a physical wrestling background, I thought was like a huge plus. And I wanted to see a wrestler like that in WWE, like guys like Ken Shamrock, Chris, and Kurt Angle. I liked their style, and to see somebody else, I don't care if I've seen it before. Those guys aren't wrestling anymore. So whoever comes along and wants to take that style, I'm gonna like them like they liked the guys before. I happened to get lucky that the guy that I liked won the ECW championship, and then once he lost that, I think he won the United States championship, and after he lost that, that's when he won Money in the Bank, and then cashed in and won the World Heavyweight Championship. That guy had a rocket first year in WWE.
Exactly. So Shawn Michaels, I'm pretty sure I watched it on a stream. And because I needed to watch that match, WrestleMania 26, it was a big deal. And the next night on Raw, I remember I think I recorded a video and posted it to Facebook, telling people Shawn Michaels is he retired, and
I'm gonna let people know about this.
I think I did. I was sad, dude. That was that was the last time he was going to ever wrestle. I wanted him to beat The Undertaker. I was one of those people.
Oh, man. Never.
We would have had heat, Justin. I would have.
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't have talked to me for months.
I would have been like, oh, this stupid Undertaker fan.
When I won the tickets to WrestleMania 26, I know everybody in the world has heard this story 1,000 times, but if they have not, I won those tickets through WWE Comics, which was a comic book about wrestling, using the wrestlers as the characters and stuff like that. And I actually sat next to two of the guys that worked on the comic book. I don't know if they were the illustrators, if they were the writers. One thing leads to another, they worked for it. And they were proud of what they did. They had a folder, not like a 3-ring binder. And it was full of art for it had future covers, it had future storyboards, and he flipped through it and he showed it to me as we were sitting there before the show started to show me who they were. And I basically I never liked comics in my life, but I kind of played it up, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. I liked the artwork. I mean, it was cool. It was flashy. I wouldn't hang it on my wall or nothing like that. But he showed me a whole bunch of stuff. Halfway through the Shawn Undertaker match, I kind of started thinking about it again. And that's when it like crept in my mind, like of all those pictures he just showed me earlier in the day, Shawn was in none of them. And I was like, nah, I still didn't believe. Like, but that's what I was honestly thinking about during that match. And I was like, nah, Shawn's still, he has to win. I mean, Shawn's old, but he'll still wrestle forever and ever. Like, this ain't it. And then when he lost, I'm in my head booking, like, oh, he'll be at SummerSlam. Yeah, there's no way. Like, yeah, you can't beat Undertaker at WrestleMania, but he's not undefeated at SummerSlam. Shawn's going to come back, he'll beat him at SummerSlam, and that's how they'll say, like, that's how they'll get around it. Yeah, retirement over. Like, I thought there was no way Shawn was really leaving.
Yeah. And like now he's the only one that hasn't like come back. So that's like it's pretty cool that that moment was so special because he has never come back after all these years. So quickly moving on to the Nexus. I know Breach is a big Nexus guy.
Hold on, you got to talk about the time between WrestleMania and Nexus because I, as a fan, was starting to die out. I was losing interest. They had a stupid last man standing match with Batista and Cena for the title at Over the Limit. I think it was Over the Limit or Extreme Rules, where he duct taped his feet to the ring pole.
Yeah.
And at that moment, this was like when I was really watching into UFC, and I was like, I think I'm done with this. Like I'll watch the main pay-per-views, but after that, like I'm done. Like I'm tired of this wrestling. And then right around then I found YouTube and it brought me back. That YouTube and Nexus saved my fanhood in WWE in 2010.
So the Nexus
thing was, I mean, I was on Skype at the time, but I was still working late, so I would come home from work and I would get on Skype. And my good buddy Miguel called me like the moment I got in my car. And he said, all right, listen to me. And I was like, all right. And he said, don't look at your phone. Go straight home. I want you to watch the last 15 minutes of Raw. You don't need to watch anything else. That. And I said, okay. And I think before I hung up the phone, I hear, don't look at your phone. Like, oh, wow. I didn't really know what to expect, but I know if somebody's going to do that to you, like, it's going to be big. So I got home, and I did what he told me to do. And, I mean, I can't think of anything in wrestling. Like the way I used to have, no, because I wouldn't have been in there. In my memory, I was watching it in that room I used to call my office, but I wouldn't have been in there in 2010. I don't know where the fuck I watched this, but I remember getting closer and closer to the television. But as I was getting closer, I was throwing punches. Like if Cena and Punk aren't gonna punch him, I'm gonna punch him. Like I was getting worked up watching it. Disbelief. Remember? Oh yeah. Side note. But do you remember the fan that reached over the guardrail and grabbed the ring bell?
Yes.
No, I don't.
I mean, I remember because I watched it yesterday. But yeah, dude, that was nuts. Like I thought it was like a person, but then like I just watched him do it and nobody stopped him. Like, you know what I mean? Just rang the bell.
That one.
I forgot about that. So NXT happened. I remember that was a big deal. Daniel Bryan versus Jericho happened on NXT. And like I didn't know anything about independence. So if it wasn't for NXT and Bryan Danielson, I would have never. I feel like that Daniel Bryan, YouTube, and Ring of Honor, that whole, and then Daniel Bryan getting fired was the chaos of me getting into independent wrestling.
What about Bryan versus Jericho on the first episode of NXT?
Yeah, that too. It was such a great match.
Mm-hmm.
But So when did Bryan get fired? Like the week after?
I want to say it was like almost instantaneously. Like it happened on a Monday, it happened, and he got fired on Tuesday.
They
Like we
didn't.
up and he was done.
They cut that out of the network. Like you can see it from the hard cam, but they don't do the obviously like the up close shot.
I remember everybody. This is when I was just starting to watch YouTube. I remember everyone making a video on this. Like it was like the biggest deal in the world. Like how can they fire this guy off this one dumb spot that he did? It doesn't make any sense. And it was like, oh, maybe I start watching this guy's matches. I'll start following what he does like on the independents now, I guess, or whatever. And then I bought that PWG 7 DVD. That was like a big deal.
Oh yeah, that's rare now.
Oh, Miguel went to that show, and like everybody threw ties in the ring.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
What else happened? So that summer, pretty much they're building up Nexus, taking over.
Well, I think that I know this probably won't mean a lot to Mike. I apologize. I didn't mean to make it sound like that, Mike. But I feel like a dick now.
No,
but,
go ahead. Say what you're gonna say.
But I think we're skipping over the Brett thing. The Brett thing was, I mean, like San Martino was a big deal when he came back for WrestleMania 29, but none of us lived through San Martino. But I mean, like, at least like I know I did. Like I lived through Bret Hart in the WWF. He was the first guy that I saw rise from being like a tag team guy to becoming a single guy and then becoming WWE champion. Like that was like the first like progression of seeing a superstar. Like I guess when you're little, you don't really realize like who's a jobber and who's not. But that was the first time ever noticing that like anybody can win the championship if you work hard and do your shit. And one thing leads to another. This guy gets like, you know, basically kicked out of the WWE and thrown to WCW with the screw job. And then, you know, as you get older and you're reading dirt sheets, the things that Brett says that, you know, he hates Vince and he regrets, doing business with him. And it doesn't matter how much Vince wants him there, how much money he's never going to go there.
Like that was like the best documentary at the time.
And seeing this stuff really fucking hurt Brett on the inside. He believes that fucking wrestling is real. He is the mark of all marks. And
remember Wrestling with Shadows?
Oh,
that was like the insider documentary. And then Brett comes back and does the Hall of Fame and he's like, I'm going to do one DVD. And that was like probably one of the best documentaries like at the time.
And that was because, like, well, when Brett came back to make that DVD, I think they got Brett to do the Hall of Fame at 22. Yeah, 22, because that was in Chicago, right?
Chicago, yeah.
And then he no-shows WrestleMania. He does the Hall of Fame thing, but he doesn't want to do WrestleMania because he doesn't want to look like a hypocrite. Then I think they got him to do the DVD, if I remember right. And when he goes to WWE Studios is where he meets Vince. They kind of have like a small encounter for the first time. And then they take a picture. They let Brett kind of have like creative control of the DVD. He got to pick all the matches. He got to sort of say the way that the WWE thing went, because the main reason is that he was scared that if he didn't do the DVD, they would Ultimate Warrior him. And they would give him that horrible, horrible, horrible DVD where they basically say that Brett's an asshole. And so like when Brett said, and then honestly, they got Brett to do something on Raw when Vince died. Remember the eulogy? And they were like, hey, you're doing a eulogy for Brett, and a lot of guys are, but you don't have to say anything nice and say whatever the hell you want to. And like he got to just go on Raw and trash Vince and like say that he hated him his whole life and blah blah blah, and he's glad he's dead. I think that was like some therapy for Brett. But when he came back, like for real to Raw, like there in Cleveland that night, that was like seeing like Jesus come back. Like I that's probably not good, but you know what I'm saying. Like I don't know what else to
say. They were selling the shirt, the glasses, everything. I remember going to a house show like months later. They had everything, Brett.
Mm-hmm.
And like I remember that hug. It seems so awkward. Like they just hugged each other and like pat each other on the back. Like, well, that's it. And stupid Sean's wearing his DX shirt, just like all gimmicked out. I'm like, you guys gonna wear a little bit more professional gear for this moment on Raw?
To me, Sean was always like that, and to me, because I mean I like Sean, but to me that just always showed that like the only reason why Sean was doing this shit was for the money. And that's why he did all that shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's make as much money as we can, because in the end of the day, that's all that matters. And I think that's, to me, that's Shawn Michaels' whole, like, whenever he came back and did that whole surprise thing with Randy Orton until the day he left.
I remember that match at Mania, dude. The build for if you watch that video package for Brett and Vince, it's a pretty good video package. And then you watch the match and watch the chaos that happens with all the Hart family outside the ring. And they all pretty much like attack Vince and then get him in a sharpshooter. Like,
if we would have known what that match was going to be, I don't think anybody would have wanted it. Like, hey, Brett, just stay home, man. We good. We good.
He should have just took that injury when he got like, didn't he get like a door thrown on his leg or something? I can't remember.
I thought that the Nexus hit because the Nexus weren't there yet. I remember the Nexus hitting took him off TV when he was the GM because they hit his car they hit the limo.
The limo, yeah. I watched that yesterday as well.
Something I thought Batista beat him up.
No, I don't remember.
No, I know because that's how Batista became the #1 contender because Vince needed somebody to beat up Brett, so Batista went out there and did it. And so Vince rewarded Batista the title shot at WrestleMania.
Oh no, he won the title. Remember the Chamber? He just come out and like, oh, Cena, you're facing Batista now, and the Batista just wins.
Oh, okay, all right, that's what it was. All right.
This is 2010 for me. It's like my highs. Like I was like, all right, we're going to WrestleMania, and all of a sudden it just dropped off for me. Like I'm kind of done with this. Oh, Brett is U.S. champion. I know you want to talk about that.
God damn it. That is the worst piece of garbage. Okay, I kind of mentioned this, but like with the whole Lloyds of London thing, Bret Hart could not wrestle a match. So they had to tell these people, like, hey, he's not going to wrestle. He's actually going to get beat up by all these people. So they have to do this smoke and mirrors trick once, and it doesn't work at WrestleMania. And now you're going to do it again on Raw in Montreal, just so Brett can say he won the belt and he's never going to fucking defend it? Like, why didn't he at the least, give it to Davey Boy Smith or to Tyson Kidd and be like, here, you guys keep it. And one of them defend it. Even if they lost it in a week, then at least, like, because didn't Miz lose? Brett wins. They put it in a thing. They put it in a tournament. And didn't Miz win the tournament? So what's the point?
Oh, man. I don't remember that at all. I remember Brett winning the U.S. title, but it's like a blur in my head.
I forgot about it. That I was mad. I thought that was the worst thing I ever saw on Raw in the history of my life.
So Swagger's champion, and you're just watching Swagger segments, I assume. Then doesn't he lose the title to Ray, and then Kane catches his Money in the Bank and beat Ray? Is that how it goes?
I think so.
Yeah, you're right.
I forgot about that.
Hey, in the middle of this, you're not bringing up Jack Swagger at Extreme Rules beat Randy Orton clean. Just saying, beat him clean. Swagger bomb, middle of the ring, 1, 2, 3. Probably still counting right now.
The biggest spot of the year I remember was the crazy Evan Bourne shooting star press into RKO. That was like the big deal. I remember that was like a huge pop, like because Randy Orton never did something crazy like that before.
So I'm surprised that's not a gift that you don't see on Twitter more often.
I feel like he's done the gimmick so much that it's just been played out now.
Oh, how about this? If you could only see one spot for the rest of your life, would you want to see the Evan Bourne one, or would you want to see the Seth Rollins one?
I don't know. I think Evan Bourne because it was like the first crazy one.
I I think the Rollins one is bigger, but I also think it's bigger because it's WrestleMania. But
Yeah.
I'm not.
I think you know my answer on that one. I think that's an obvious answer.
You were there live, you mark.
Yeah, especially what happened later. So he got RKO'd into oblivion. He got RKO'd into the main event.
You always lose before you cash in. It's
Exactly.
a unwritten rule.
Oh, that Fatal 4-Way pay-per-view where they had 3 Fatal 4-Way matches.
Yep.
Friggin' what's his face wins the title? Who wins the title?
Sheamus.
Oh.
Sheamus won the title against what? Cena?
Yeah. That was wasn't that like in a cage match though? Because the Nexus comes down, they take the keys and they throw the keys. Tarver throws the keys in the crowd. Something like that.
Oh man, these. I feel like we should be looking at results, but it's fine.
I know that happened. I remember that happening, but
no, Sheamus defeats John Cena, Edge, and Randy Orton in a Fatal 4 to win the title.
Yeah, because they just talked about that on the Raw Watch.
That's how they protect Cena. Because I think Nexus.
Oh yeah, it happened on the pay-per-view breach. You're right. At Money in the Bank.
Yeah. I think that Nexus comes down, so Cena chases him off, and then he ends up losing the match because he's not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of protects him, like, oh, he didn't lose.
And then, oh shoot, what was I gonna say?
The only thing hot this summer is like Nexus. I feel like everything Nexus.
Oh, definitely.
White hot. Like you're so invested in Nexus, and they build up to this. Was it 5-on-5 match? Is it 5-on-5?
SummerSlam where Bret Hart wrestles in a Batman shirt. But I'll tell you the truth. That pay-per-view was really hot, and that was like the first show I ever traveled to go see, to go hang out with Luke and Miguel. But I think that Nexus was so big at the time that everyone thought that Nexus was going to win at SummerSlam so much that nobody cared about that match. But when I went to Raw here in Sacramento at the Golden Arco Arena, Team WWE kind of like reunited together with Edge and Christian no longer feuding with Cena, and then getting on the same page with everybody. That when they came down and ended up beating up Nexus and running them off, like Nexus ran away scared, and then the people at the place were making so much noise that the camera was shaking and they couldn't get a clear shot in the ring to end Raw. I think that is what sold SummerSlam. I think that's what got people like, oh shit, WWE might actually have a chance in this.
Oh man, I remember that pay-per-view so well. I remember Kane versus Mysterio and Undertaker coming back. I remember that garbage Randy Orton Sheamus match. And I remember that 7-on-7 match, dude. Like I went to this pay-per-view. I was so hyped for this pay-per-view because like I was following you guys on YouTube. Everyone's talking about it weekly, and it was just like I feel like it's culminated into like this huge event, pretty much.
With the return of Daniel Bryan.
Are you telling me that you don't remember Big Show versus CM Punk versus Festus versus?
No, I look at this match. I don't remember this match.
Dude, it was like 4-on-1, and Big Show beat them all because the Shredded Society started fighting with each other, and they all ran into the back and just left Big Show standing there.
Oh man! So Daniel Bryan is a surprise guy on the 7-on-7 match. Everyone thinking it's a Miz, and then Daniel Bryan shows up, huge pop, and I'm like, and I'm watching Daniel Bryan all summer, so I literally like shout out like, this is guy's like the best wrestler in the world because I'm like this YouTube. I'm like influenced by YouTube now, and everyone's like, I'm watching the people, and everyone's like, who's this random guy? Like, trust me, he's really good. And then you lead to the end where Nexus is up like I think it's like 3-2, and then it's like 2-2, and then they eliminate Daniel Bryan, and it's like, oh my god, they should have let Daniel, like, out of all people to, if you wanted WWE to win, let Daniel Bryan get the win, right? Because he's a former member of Nexus. He gets, for some reason, he's gone now, and then he comes back. Like, let him get the win. But no, Daniel Bryan gets eliminated. It's 2-on-1. John Cena gets DDT'd on concrete, and in 90 seconds, wins the match. I remember that very clearly.
I think they wouldn't want Daniel Bryan to win because he got the rub just by being at the show and having his return, he was never supposed to be anything more like him being United States champion like a few months later. That was probably supposed to be as high as he was ever supposed to be in the company.
Okay, well, if we're going to that, let me take some
So hold
pictures
on.
real
Does
quick.
Nexus die that night at SummerSlam?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody took them seriously after that. Well, I'll tell you the truth. I thought Barrett was gonna win the title at whatever the
champion.
Survivor Series. It was Survivor.
Yeah.
It was Orton versus Barrett. Cena as referee. If he doesn't count Barrett, Cena gets fired.
Yeah. So hold on for that for a second so I can have my couple seconds of fame here. So the next pay-per-view after SummerSlam was Night of Champions 2010. Mentioned it earlier. Big Show defeated CM Punk in like a 10-second match or something. But me being a huge fan of The Miz, I saw The Miz come into Night of Champions as the United States champion, and some nobody scrub beat him for the United States Championship. I had no idea.
Match. I remember that.
In a submission match, I remember Miz was crying afterward. Everybody was going nuts. I didn't understand why this Daniel Bryan guy was so good. Now, years later, I tell this story with regrets because obviously Daniel Bryan turned into, like this person that I had no idea, like where he came from or what he was about. So that was cool to say that I got to see Daniel Bryan's first WWE, championship win. You also
Let's talk
had
about Kane and Taker. How was that?
You also had real quick Michelle McCool defeated Melina to unify the women's and divas championship, so that's pretty big. And then so Kane versus Undertaker. Like at the time, that was just cool to see Undertaker for the first time. His entrance obviously being amazing, and the match I don't remember much. All I remember is I saw Kane versus the Undertaker, which is one of those it's one of those iconic matches that has a storied history, and I'm glad that I got to see it. And I could say that I've seen
a 6-pack challenge with Orton winning the title.
6-pack challenge, yes. So that was where, when the Nexus came down, I just remember. Well, okay, that was the match. Like I say this a lot. That's the match where when you get the new video game that year, you do that match so you can see all the entrances. And that's what I took this as. I got to see Chris Jericho's entrance. I got to see John Cena's entrance, Wade Barrett's entrance, Sheamus, Randy Orton, and then Edge being the best one. So the fact that I got to see all those entrances was awesome. Chris Jericho was eliminated first, I remember. And then I remember the Nexus coming down and attacking like everybody right after that. And then Randy Orton winning the title. Randy Orton was like a lot of people liked him at the time, so it kind of made sense where he would win the title. So that was just one of those things where, also Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre, just they won the tag titles. So that's another show where I saw Cody Rhodes win a championship.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, look at them now. So that's pretty crazy. But yeah,
Rich,
so that's
anything at this time?
Oh no, he's doing a good job. He's got this all knocked down.
I want to talk about Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. I want to talk about the main event.
Oh, that's one of the worst ones of all time. Isn't that Taker versus Kane?
You know how hyped I was for Taker versus Kane at Hell in a Cell? I thought this was going to be like 5 stars in my head. I remember this finish very clearly. Paul Bearer once again turning on Undertaker for like the 20th time after coming back from the dead, because for the last time we saw Paul Bearer, he was in Cement in 2004. So he comes back, he turns on Taker, he gets the urn, he opens the urn, flashes a light in Taker's eyes, and Kane retains the title. And I was like, why did I buy the show?
I have a firm well now I guess, hold on, let me get this together. All right, ready. All right, when Undertaker doing all of these like podcasts, like every single time I hear him asked like how much longer you gonna go, he always kind of makes sense that you gotta watch the documentary, and that makes me kind of think he's actually gonna retire at the end of the documentary. Like that's where he's gonna have like his so-called retirement speech.
Yeah.
In my mind, the way I always wanted them to retire was basically have Undertaker versus Kane at WrestleMania, and somehow we see these guys fall to hell, and that's how they actually die. Because to me, Undertaker and Kane is the longest running and best storyline that WWE has ever done, and for some reason, like, they will throw any storyline out the window the second that it does not work for Vince. But the Undertaker versus Kane storyline is the one that they like will never break from. Like what it is what it is. Like, guys become brothers, and then all of a sudden they don't ever talk about it ever again. But like, these guys have been stuck at the hip for 20 plus years. So I always thought their careers would end together.
Well, they should do that now because they could film a cinematic thing.
Oh yeah, the ground opens up. In the end,
Drag me to hell.
that movie was Seth Rollins, not Seth Rollins.
Oh, this is the end. This is the end.
Yeah, just like that.
Opens up.
I think I have that movie. I gotta watch that again.
So we got Bragging Rights 2010, and I'm looking through the card. Undertaker faced Kane in a Barry Live match, and Kane won. So he's 3-0 against the Undertaker, and I don't remember this at all.
I don't know.
Do you remember what set up those matches though? Was that Taker was champion, and he got hurt. And their way of describing that Undertaker got hurt is Kane said that he found Undertaker backstage in a comatose state and wanted to know who is the one that did it. So that led Kane having a feud with Rey Mysterio, and we were led to believe that Kane thought Rey Mysterio laid out Undertaker backstage somehow, and then beat him to the point where he was in a coma. And then when it all came down at SummerSlam, Kane is the guy that beat up Undertaker. So when you look back at the storyline, we had to sit through months of this because Kane beat up Undertaker, but didn't want to take credit for it, blamed somebody else for doing it, only for Undertaker to come back and beat up Kane.
I just remembered that stupid Undertaker and Ray had a match at Rumble, and we forgot Edge made his giant return at the Royal Rumble 2010. And I remember it was such a big deal at the time because everyone was like, Edge ain't coming back. And he did look like he came back too early because I feel like he didn't wrestle up until WrestleMania after that because he looked a little small when he came back. A random thought.
It was around this time, around towards the end of the year, like the second half of the year, I guess you can say, where Punk was on commentary, just as a commentator.
And he wore the Colt Cabana shirt.
Yeah, he used to. I mean, here's the thing. I just remember this was it was so great. It was so great to see, or to hear Punk on commentary. And I've gone countless times. I've gone back and listened to compilations of him on commentary, and that was one of those things where he just had a blast with his the role that he was given. You know what I mean? And
does that mean, excuse me, what's going on with the Raw general manager at that time?
Okay,
yeah.
So it was just as they were making the transition, Punk was going back to because what was that was earlier in the summer, I remember, because
did that replace Brett?
Yeah, it did.
Oh, that's so stupid. They led us to believe at one point that it was Brett. Remember that?
No, but it makes sense. I remember every time I don't know, dude, that was just such a bit such a stupid thing, you know what I mean? Didn't I've just received an email. But the Punk at commentary, it led to the diet soda. John Cena spilling Punk's diet soda. And that kind of went with the whole, why did CM Punk attack John Cena, and the fact that WWE back at this time can take something as simple as John Cena spilling Punk's diet soda and turn it into such a great storyline with Punk becoming the leader of the Nexus, and I remember, so I watched this yesterday, so that's why I remember it so clearly. So John Cena was calling out, he called out I forgot who called out, if you called it the Nexus or if you called out CM Punk. Anyway, the Nexus came down and like it was led by David Otunga, and David Otunga walks into the ring and he says like, Cena, like, let's like have a truce. Like, I apologize. Like, let's have a truce. And John Cena said no. And then they attacked him. And then Punk came into the ring. He brought in the chair and he was like going to hit him, but then he just sat in the chair and he put on the Nexus armband. And then that kind of like spawned into like the very end of the year where Punk
skipped over everything.
Punk was like,
I remember that angle. The angle was like revive the Nexus, but okay, how did John Cena join the Nexus at one point? Remember, he was like Wade Barrett's lackey.
Yeah, because he lost. He lost like a match or something. Like he lost a match against him, and he had to like what was it? He had to like quit.
Tired? Because I remember one night he like walked around the whole arena like giving everybody high fives, and they were like,
"This is what happened." Survivor Series. Randy Orton versus Wade Barrett. Everyone, and if John Cena wins, John Cena's a special guest referee. If Orton wins, Cena's fired. If Barrett wins, Cena would be free from the Nexus. And everyone's like, okay, Wade Barrett's going to win. This is going to be like a revival of the Nexus storyline since they redemption from their SummerSlam match. Randy Orton wins. John Cena is fired, and they end the pay-per-view with him leaving, crying, giving high fives to all the fans.
Yeah.
And then didn't he come on TV and says, "What do you want me to do? Join the other company, the Total Nonstop Action?"
I think so.
And then he starts wrestling on house shows named Juan Cena.
Yeah, that was great. I remember when those pictures came out. Everyone was
like it was so. Oh, I don't even know, dude.
Yeah, that was one of those things that just didn't make sense at all. But like,
and then John Cena has a chairs match against Wade Barrett. I remember him FUing Wade Barrett.
Yeah, because in the Raws that I'm watching now, like it's where, like Punk was talking about how he just destroyed Wade Barrett after the match with all those chairs, and like how that was like, he didn't have to do that, but he did because John Cena was crazy, whatever.
And at the time between those two pay-per-views, Miz cashes in his Money in the Bank and beats Orton because at TLC he beats Orton in a tables match. And remember Alex Riley? Remember that wrestler?
Oh yeah.
Well, he's with this corner. That's all I remember from 2010.
Well, yeah, because like the Nexus that there at the end. That's what I was like saying a few minutes ago. Was like it was kind of like a second coming of the Nexus, and I watched I don't know if it was the first. It was like one of the first Raws of 2011, and we'll get into it like in the next couple of days, like talking about 2011. But where basically Wade Barrett confronts Punk and is like, "Hey, like you don't run anything. Like this is my group," and then they had like a cage match.
The Core and the Nexus, but that's another podcast.
Well, that's 2011.
Anything else in 2010?
Breech.
Shoot. Miz, like cashing in, Miz becoming the champion, and that being like Miz is gonna be the next Hall of Fame guy for the WWE.
Oh, you think he was gonna be the guy? He's gonna be like Cena.
Yeah. I thought that they were going to like shoot him to the moon because of his MTV success, and Tough Enough was going to get revitalized, and they were going to use him as the face of Tough Enough. Like, I really thought he was going to be one of the main players. Like, you can say that he's one of the main players, but like, I thought he was going to be a WWE or a World Heavyweight Champion for the rest of his career.
Oh, so instead of being like upper mid card, he would have been like main event.
Yeah.
A-list main event.
Yeah, I thought he was made. I thought he was like in.
Mike, you remember anything else? That was it?
I just remember that like Miz, like I was a big fan of Miz. So when he cashed in, I remember I had all the pictures on my iPod. Like that was a big deal. Like my guy, the Miz.
I was never a fan of Miz. Like everyone made videos like how they love Miz, and I was kind of on the fence. But when he became champion, I slowly started turning because he would do more and more interviews as champion, and I'm like the personality of Miz, like, oh, I really like this guy.
I liked him with him and Morrison. Like I liked them back in those days. So
I'm giving Miz the stamp of approval but I think at the end of 2011, I think he's in the main event of TLC. So he had to have come in somewhere between like SummerSlam, like in that later fall period. I think he makes his debut for WWE. But when I saw the vignettes for Alberto Del Rio, I thought,
oh yeah,
definitely gonna be a main event guy right off of the bat. I didn't know. Well, I'm not gonna say he's small, but that was the first thing I thought about when I saw him in the ring for the first time. Like, oh, I thought he was gonna be bigger than this, but like taller. But
I thought Del Rio was gonna be like the megastar. Like they're gonna push him. Like the way they pushed Del Rio was like, oh, this guy's gonna be like the megastar of the company.
yeah, I remember those vignettes.
He's gonna have the heel run that'll turn into the baby face, and then next thing you know, he's the next Rey Mysterio.
Literally, like what happened? Now I got a Del Rio plaque I'm sitting on that I'll never sell in his life.
So he's gotta quit beating up women, and we'd be all right.
So on that note, we'll talk about 2011 probably in a couple days. And
gotta talk about Summer of Punk, dude. That's a whole podcast.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I'm excited to relive that because that was the best. So
that was after that, like it was like 27, and then things died down, and then right back at it. Summer of Punk, like shot up to the moon. Like I remember everyone talking about that, but we'll talk about that after.
Talking about that later. Breech, thanks again for coming on and talking about 2010. And I'll talk to you again after a while.